The ocean was my first love. I grew up swimming, surfing, chasing waves. It's my grounding place. The ocean doesn't argue, it doesn't judge, and it doesn't send angry emails. Then there's my second love, my sun. And if I can leave the world a little cleaner, greener, and a little kinder, then I've done my job. That was my motivation. I stepped into the plastic pollution space, working alongside informal waste collection teams, people finding dignity and income in what others are throwing away. I ran cleanups, I talked about plastics, I believed awareness would shift behavior, and I genuinely believed if we just worked hard enough, we could fix it. And then COVID hit. The oceans went quiet, the hunger got loud, the communities I worked with lived hand to mouth. No work, no pantries, no food. I didn't pivot into food rescue because I had a strategy. I pivoted because people were hungry. I didn't choose a new battlefield, the hunger chose me. It started with a car boot full of food, one settlement, one newspaper article, then farmers called, then buckets of soup arrived, pallets arrived. A year later, I was feeding thousands of people across hundreds of communities. And suddenly, people depended on me. I didn't save the world, but I built something that kept going. I didn't fix hunger, but we were pausing free fall. I didn't change the system, but I was building a family. I changed moments, and at that time, I believed that was enough. I believed in a dream that I had. I have to say, compassion is a difficult thing. It's one of the hardest things I've had to practice. It's a daily choice. A food parcel isn't a solution. We know that. It doesn't fix policy, and it doesn't solve unemployment. But it's a signal, it's a pause, and it says, I see you. So, this is what stepping up looks like. A wheelchair being carried into a shack by local community members. Mothers cooking bread in checkers bags over naked fires for the community members. It's not glamorous, it's not heroic, it's small human acts. Water, food, shelter, security. And that's where the light first showed up. Then came the floods. Floods are easy, narrative is clean. And the riots, anger rises, judgment rises. I had to ask myself, who deserves compassion when it's uncomfortable? Now, I want you to imagine yourself standing in those images and just stay there for a moment. Judgment is a luxury. Trauma removes that choice. When you're in survival mode, you're not strategic. You're not future-focused. You're not inspirational. You're just surviving. And survival isn't always polite. That was the moment I've stopped asking why they're behaving like that and started to ask, what's happened to them? I thought I could change the world. What I learned is you don't change the world, you stand in it, and sometimes it stands back. And if I'm honest, maybe I wasn't always just helping communities. Maybe I was trying to heal something in my inner self. We don't always serve from strength. Sometimes we serve by recognizing a wound within. This is not a look what I've done talk. It's more of a question, who do we decide is worthy of being seen? Because helping isn't about an ego, it's a shared responsibility. Compassion is not an agreement, it's simply the refusal to dehumanize. And that's a light which only shows up in the darkness. At some point, I stopped feeling tired and I started to feel empty. The crisis has slowed, but my nervous system hadn't. I was still scanning, still bracing, still on call to the world. I didn't realize that I was burning out because I thought the exhaustion meant that I was doing it right. I had built something fast, fancy, and big, but I hadn't built boundaries. And without boundaries, compassion becomes self-erasure. I was needed, and I didn't know how not to be needed. Also, that was my narrative, and that's a very dangerous place to live. When I stepped back, I felt like I was abandoning people because I had confused being needed with being valued. If your worthiness is attached to usefulness, you will never know when to step back, and eventually your body will choose for you. I started to absorb everything, the hunger, the chaos, the politics, the criticism, and at some points I forgot to observe without absorbing. I realized something uncomfortable. I'd been here before, in corporate, in leadership, in relationships, in friendships. If I worked hard enough, if I gave enough, if I proved enough, somebody would protect me. And when they didn't, I started to fall apart. Trauma isn't always one explosion. Sometimes it's a carousel. Crisis, response, click, 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 until one day that mechanism jams and your body chooses for you. Fight, flight, or freeze. And we call this PTSD. For me, that storm became physical. Stress doesn't disappear, it stores. And my body started speaking louder than I ever had, which is a challenge, by the way. Epilepsy, seizures, fatigue. Compassion without boundaries is erosion. You can stand in the storm, but you cannot become it. And so I left. I tormented myself because we glorify staying, we glorify sacrifice, we glorify burnout with a proof of goodness. But here's what I know now. You're allowed to do your part, and your part doesn't have to be forever. You can be the light, but you don't always have to be the anchor. The light between us isn't heroism. It's not saving the world, and it's not fixing systems overnight. It's the pause and the free fall. It's the choice to see someone even when it's uncomfortable. And it's also the decision to see yourself. So here's my confession. I went in starry-eyed, came out a little softer, a little wiser, and I'm okay, I did my part, and that's enough. The ocean still doesn't argue, still not judging or sending angry emails, but people do. And maybe that fiction, that discomfort between us, is exactly where the light lives. It's not in perfection, it's not in saving everyone, but it's just in showing up, even once, and that's the light between us.